has to offer. Generally, when you're using Boxcutter, you're used to just drawing with classic box. However, it does have a variant of Linebox where there's also a toggle for it in the top bar. Basically, Linebox will allow you to draw a line and then it will turn it into a box. So sometimes you want to just draw a line at an angle, turn it into a box in order to complete your operation. Alternative to this, Box also has the variant of grid. So if we go under the shape settings and we activate grid, now whenever we draw a box, it's actually a grid cut. So if we look at it, we see that we've actually cut a grid all the way through. This is one of the shapes that's unincluded from AltScroll due to its lack of popularity, but we do see that whenever grid is active, you are able to toggle solidify, auto solidify, as well as the amount of divisions happening for both the X and Y axis. So now that we talked about box, let's talk about circle and its variants. If we click on type, we see that polygon is number 1, meaning it's the default. Modifier is number 2, basically a screw modifier based circle, and it was the classic version of circle, which we're no longer using. And then there's star, which is a complete variant of circle, allowing for interesting combinations. But the one that we'll focus on first will be polygon. So with polygon, we already have our segment count set to 32. We could also manually click to type in our segments, but I like to use the presets in order to quickly set it to the value I want. One of the benefits of the polygon circle is that if we were to draw a circle, bring it in, press B in order to bevel, and press tab to pause, we could go under the helper and there's an icon under bevel for flipping it, which will basically give us a reverse bevel. So that's one of the benefits of having the new polygon circle. Modifier is just like the circle that I just showed, except that it has no capabilities when it comes to reverse bevel. So if we draw a shape in and we press B to bevel and tap to pause, we can go in here and choose to flip it, and we see that it doesn't actually flip it like you would expect with the reverse bevel situation. The final one to talk about is star. Star is unique. Whenever you jump to star, you definitely want to jump it down to a lower segment count in order to get a nice result like a star, or else you will get a very unusual result with something like 64 segments. However, I do find myself having fun with this as well by just pressing B in order to bevel to turn it into a gear and then adjusting the amount of width in between. And with this shape, you can also do something like press Shift T in order to taper in order to get a really unique shape altogether. So we'll press B again in order to adjust our bevel to at least not be overshooting our shape. And this is basically the result that we were able to get just playing around with star for just a moment. Now that we've talked about circle and its variants all the way down to star, let us talk about Ngon. Typically with Ngon, you'll be drawing a closed shape where the beginning and the end will be connected by a line. By double clicking on the last point, you can jump into the extrusion process. However, during the Ngon process, you could also press C in order to change into a line formation in the event that you're wanting to draw as a line instead of a closed Ngon. This is a toggle on the top bar where basically you can toggle between Ngon and Ngon as a line. But Ngon line definitely has its uses whenever it comes to cutting pennular shapes compared to classic Ngon, which is just used for just getting those classic verbose shapes. However, there are variants to Ngon as well besides line. So if we go under the options for Ngon, we see that there's a toggle for lasso. When lasso is toggled, you can actually draw freehand strokes and perform cuts using a more gestural approach compared to drawing Ngon points. But in addition to lasso being a variant of Ngon, you also have the ability to draw lasso as a line similar to Ngon. So here we are just drawing a freehand lasso line, and then when we release the mouse, we're able to perform the extrusion process. So this is also something available as well. Whenever it comes to lasso, there are parameters for adjusting the amount of spacing in between points, as well as a toggle for adaptive calculation for us to calculate the lasso points based on your zoom level. Last but not least is custom. Custom utilizes a custom cutter as the cutter, and its only variant is line. So typically whenever you draw custom, it will utilize the same type of drawing behavior as box. Keep in mind that we are currently drawing from corner, but if you want to draw from the center, you could also do that with the press of the period key on your keyboard. So just like that, we're able to draw from center draw. We could press period again to jump to corner draw, where we can draw freely, or draw it equidistant from the center by basically pressing period. So in addition to being able to draw in the same behavior as box, there's a toggle for you to draw in the form of line, allowing you to basically draw a line to formalize your orientation first, and then from there draw out your shape. Of course, you can hold shift in order to draw the shape one-to-one, and you can even hold control during the extrude to extrude it to a certain depth that's actually appropriate for that particular cutter.